Welcome to Lotus Tale Studios, where every story touches the heart and stirs the soul. If you love tales of second chances, romance, and sweet revenge, hit that subscribe button now so you never miss a story. Trust me, you'll want to stay for this one. When my sister Vivien Chen collapsed to her knees, weeping and begging the young general to buy me instead of her, I knew immediately that she too had been reborn. 3 months earlier, our father was convicted of treason. The entire Chen family fell from grace overnight. The men were exiled to the frontier army, while the women were sold into servitude. As unmarried daughters, Vivien and I were sent to the pleasure house, awaiting our fate like cattle at market. Today was auction day. If someone with means purchased us, we might escape the worst of our suffering. In my previous life, on this exact day, the young General Marcus Zhao came to buy me. But Vivien, consumed with jealousy, pushed me from the raised platform. My leg shattered on impact. She got her wish and left with the general instead. But life in the general's manor was no fairy tale. Vivien spent years fighting vicious battles with scheming concubines, clawing for scraps of attention. Then General Zhao's fortune turned. He supported the third prince in a failed rebellion and was executed as a traitor, shot down by a hail of arrows in the capital square. Vivien was stripped of everything and thrown back into the pleasure house. By that time, my husband, Daniel Wu, had risen to become the prime minister, second only to the emperor himself. I had shed my servant status and become the prime minister's honored wife, respected throughout the capital. Vivien couldn't bear it. Mad with jealousy, she knocked me unconscious, dragged me back to our abandoned family estate, and set the entire place ablaze. I burned to death, screaming for help that never came. When I opened my eyes again, we were back on auction day. As General Zhao pointed toward us, Vivien shoved me forward, tears streaming down her face in a perfect performance. "General, my younger sister is beautiful and gentle. You will surely be pleased with her." The general's eyes, deep and unreadable as the ocean, settled on me without expression before he nodded once. "Then it shall be her." I glanced at my sister's heartbreaking sobs and smirked inwardly, pretending deep sisterly affection outwardly. Vivien embraced me tightly. "Little sister, you must be obedient and serve the general well. If you live a good life, I can rest easy." Her sacrifice moved the crowd. Everyone praised her as a wonderful older sister. But only I heard what she truly whispered in my ear. "Marcus is an excellent husband. Enjoy your good fortune, little sister. As for Daniel, he's mine now." She was triumphant, believing she had successfully rewritten her fate. She was certain she would follow my previous path, becoming the prime minister's wife and living in glory. But what Vivien didn't know was that Daniel was not the brilliant scholar everyone believed him to be. In reality, he was a dim-witted fool addicted to wine and gambling. His success in the imperial examinations and his rapid promotions were all because of me. In other words, no matter who I married, that man was destined for greatness. I followed Marcus through the streets. He walked with his hands clasped behind his back, his pace steady and unhurried. Common people scattered in fear when they saw him. I watched his broad shoulders, my eyes welling with tears. As if sensing something, Marcus suddenly stopped and turned to look at me. I met his gaze, fighting to hold back my emotions. "Marcus, in this life, with me by your side, you will not suffer a tragic end. You will not become a traitor. You will achieve the glory you deserve." We walked the entire way to his manor without exchanging a single word. Upon arrival, he instructed the head steward, Victor, to arrange my quarters, then left without another glance. I wasn't in a hurry to speak with him. I followed Victor quietly. Along the way, he gave me a formal warning not to disturb the general. If I angered him, punishment would be the least of my worries. Losing my life would be far worse. I muttered to myself, if he doesn't want women bothering him, why keep so many concubines? The general's manor was vast. Nearly every small courtyard housed a woman. Marcus had no official wife. All these women were concubines. In my past life, the moment Vivien stepped into this manor, she was relentlessly tormented by these women acting together. And Marcus never once defended her. Sure enough, just as I finished settling in, a group of 7 or 8 women entered my chambers. They walked in and examined me as if I were merchandise. A delicate-looking woman spoke first. The daughter of a disgraced official. What was your father's crime? Embezzlement. Treason. Deceiving the emperor? You certainly carry yourself like a highborn lady. A woman in red stepped forward and pinched my cheek. Her features are indeed superior to ours. I wonder if her skills in pleasing a man are just as refined. They all laughed together, their voices dripping with contempt. I finally understood why Vivien had made enemies of them all in her past life. These women preyed on the weak, giving any newcomer a harsh initiation. I slapped the woman's hand away and said coldly, "If there is nothing else, I wish to rest. I will pay my respects to each of you another day. How dare you strike me?" The woman raised her hand to slap me. "You little wretch, do you still think you're a noble lady?" I pressed my tongue against my stinging cheek. In my past life, my nature was meek. Even when bullied by Vivien, I only knew how to endure, never daring to cause trouble. But after 12 years of helping Daniel navigate the treacherous world of court politics, encountering all manner of demons and monsters, I was no longer the malleable Isabella Chen of the past. I immediately stood up and slapped her back harder. What happened next even I didn't expect. A chaotic brawl erupted. By the end of it, the group of women, their hair disheveled and clothes torn, scrambled outside screaming for help. I grabbed the hair of the woman who had first slapped me, dragged her to the courtyard gate, and threw her out. "If you ever dare to bother me again, I will beat you every single time." I tossed a hand towel at her face and turned to close the gate when I suddenly saw Marcus standing by the path. Someone must have reported the commotion. I didn't know how long he had been standing there, arms crossed, his expression unreadable as he watched me. My heart sank. It's over. I hadn't even had a proper conversation with him, and I'd already left him with the impression of being a shrew. Would he throw me out? This was truly an awful start. The other concubines soon spotted him and swarmed around him, weeping and pleading. "General, you must seek justice for us." Marcus stared at me silently, his eyes filled with cold intensity. I remembered Vivien's description of him when he was silent. When he was quiet, you were terrified. When he spoke, you were even more so. Vivien had called Marcus a beast that devoured its prey without leaving bones. At first, she dreamed of catching his eye. Later, she didn't dare even think about it, wishing only to stay far away from him. The courtyard fell silent under his gaze. Brawling and causing disturbance will be punished with 60 strokes of the rod. A second offense will result in expulsion from the manor. All of you. Without a flicker of emotion, Marcus glanced at me one last time, then turned and left with a flick of his sleeves. Sentenced to 60 strokes, I lay on my bed afterward, bored, flipping through a book. He truly lived up to his reputation as the iron-faced general, showing not a hint of mercy toward women. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, Victor announced that my sister had come to visit. Vivien arrived carrying 2 boxes of pastries, wearing a new dress, her face glowing like a peach blossom. The general's estate is strictly governed. You cannot behave as recklessly as you did at home. Look at you, barely through the door and you've already offended so many people. You deserved those 60 strokes. My sister knew exactly what kind of man Marcus was. Her words were deliberately meant to provoke me. I couldn't be bothered with her. My husband may be poor, but he treats me very well. My indifference didn't stop her from boasting. In a few months, the spring examinations will be held. By then, I will be the wife of a distinguished scholar. The very thought fills me with anticipation. Distinguished scholar, the 3rd highest honor. The exams haven't even happened yet. You're so certain he'll pass with such honors? I raised an eyebrow at her. She faltered for a moment, her eyes betraying a flicker of uncertainty before she recovered. Of course. Daniel is a man of great literary and martial talent, his mind full of knowledge. Forget distinguished scholar, he could even be the top scholar. With a confident expression, Vivien left the 2 boxes of cheap pastries and departed with a triumphant air. She truly treated Daniel like a priceless treasure. No matter. Her good days were just beginning. Recovering from my wounds was terribly dull. As I counted the days, I had my maid go out and gather news about my sister. The maid returned to report that Daniel had purchased a courtesan from a brothel and brought her home as a concubine. Vivien had thrown a fit, weeping and screaming, and even beat the new concubine. I chuckled. It was only the beginning, and she already couldn't bear it. The only real thing about Daniel was his poverty. Everything else was an act. Once I recovered, I took my maid out to the city streets. I saw Vivien having tea with the wives of Daniel's colleagues. I noticed a large dark bruise on her wrist, accidentally revealed from beneath her sleeve. Daniel had hit her. In my past life, he had laid hands on me too. At first, I was afraid and endured it, until I found Master Lin and slowly gained confidence. The next time he tried to strike me, I slapped him back. After a few such encounters, he never dared raise his voice at me again. Vivien was not one to suffer in silence, but for the sake of her future title as the distinguished scholar's wife, she had no choice but to endure. "My lady, are you buying this fabric to make clothes for the general?" my maid asked. I shook my head. "I'm making them for myself." The maid gave me a strange look because I had purchased fabric meant for men's clothing. "All the other ladies are trying to get close to the general, but you are the most well-behaved, never even going out. The general will never remember you exist." I had no desire to join their noisy games. I had a better way. As the new year approached, I changed into the newly tailored man's robe, applied a fake beard, and put on a scholar's cap, slipping out through a side gate of the manor. I bought a jar of wine and 2 boxes of meat, then stopped in front of a small, dilapidated house and knocked. An old man with a white beard appeared. He was in his late 70s or early 80s, his hair completely white and his face a web of wrinkles, but his eyes were remarkably bright. He sized me up. "Who are you looking for?" "Master, I have finally found you again." I bowed deeply to him. "I was a student of my father's. I heard you had returned and came to pay my respects." I prepared his favorite dish, braised pork belly. As expected, he ate with gusto, praising it endlessly. Not daring to stay long, I promised to return the next day to cook for him. I visited for 7 consecutive days. On the 8th day, I met someone else at Master Lin's house. "Young friend," Master Lin waved me over. "This is General Zhao. He has come to pay his New Year's respects. Please prepare a few extra dishes today. The general and I will share a drink." I had finally been waiting for him. I was carrying 3 pounds of meat and 2 bundles of vegetables. I looked toward Marcus. He was looking back at me, a flash of surprise in his eyes before he nodded. "Very well. I will go prepare the meal," I said. After the food was ready, the 3 of us sat together. Master Lin and Marcus discussed matters of the court. Master Lin advised him, "General, if your hands are tied, then it is best to do nothing at all. I hear you keep more than 10 concubines in your manor. Why not simply enjoy a life of pleasure?" Marcus's current situation was precarious. He had been a trusted official of the emperor, but his sister, Imperial Consort Zhong, had been implicated in a scandal with a prince and other palace concubines. Now confined to the cold palace, Marcus was caught in the fallout, stripped of all his official duties and left as a figurehead with only a title. In my past life, from this point on, for the next 10 years until his death in a failed rebellion, his life was perpetually entangled with his sister and nephew, never finding a moment of success. During those 10 years, 2 pivotal events changed his destiny. I only needed to alter the course of these 2 events to change his fate. The rest I did not want to interfere with. The first event was the spring hunt, where the 3rd prince and the emperor encountered a wild bear in the forest. The 3rd prince abandoned the emperor and fled alone. Upon returning, knowing he was at fault, the cowardly prince claimed it was Marcus who had taught him to act that way. The emperor, who had been considering restoring Marcus to his former post, naturally dropped the matter. "Master, please eat." I broke the heavy silence and placed some food in Marcus's bowl, making sure there were no peppers. "General, please have some more." Marcus looked at me, raising an eyebrow. "You know I don't eat spicy food." "The general's preferences are well known to all," I said with a smile. Marcus gave me a knowing look. After the meal, I offered to play a game of chess with Marcus, and he did not refuse. He was a masterful player, his moves decisive and clean. Our styles were similar, and we became so engrossed that we lost track of time. By the time we finished, night had fallen. As Marcus and Master Lin prepared to leave, I quickly asked him, "General, shall we continue tomorrow?" He looked at me with a half-smile. "You seem to enjoy playing chess with me." "Yes, playing with the General is very enjoyable." A corner of Marcus's mouth lifted. "I have matters to attend to tomorrow. Is there anything I can help with?" Marcus looked at me, his voice low. "I will come tomorrow." The next day, Marcus truly came. After the meal, I brought out the chessboard and invited him to play. I made small talk and he answered tersely, but the atmosphere was pleasant. On the 5th day of the first lunar month, as I was leaving the manor through the side gate, I was spotted by Ruby, the concubine I had fought with before. She reported me to Victor, who scolded me and had the side gate lock changed. That afternoon, I missed my appointment with Master Lin. That evening, in a fit of rage, I gave Ruby another beating. But strangely, the next day, the lock on the side gate was removed. As I happily made my way to Master Lin's house, I found Marcus already there. "You didn't come yesterday," he said. "Yes, something came up at home," I said, shaking the bag of ingredients in my hand. "I bought a fish head. We're having fish head tofu soup for lunch." I was busy in the kitchen when I looked up to see Marcus leaning against the doorframe with his arms crossed, quietly observing me. "Is the General hungry?" "The meal is almost ready," I said with a smile. He spoke suddenly. "I told Victor to remove the lock." I froze, staring at him with my mouth agape. My expression made him laugh. "You think putting on a fake beard and men's clothes makes you a man?" I swallowed hard, my mouth twitching. The General knew I was Isabella all along. "Your disguise was so good," he teased. "You overestimate yourself." "Not at all," I started to retort, but the knife in my hand slipped, slicing off a piece of flesh from my finger. Blood immediately gushed out. He walked over, took my hand, and frowned. "Rinse it with water first. I have some medicinal powder." He held my hand, let water run over the wound, and sprinkled powder on it. The stinging brought tears to my eyes. He glanced at me. "Does it hurt badly?" I nodded. "As much as being whipped?" I paused, looking at him. "Are you resentful that my judgment was unfair?" I shook my head. "I wouldn't dare resent you. The General is always right." He pressed his lips together. "You started a fight. Shouldn't you have been punished?" I pouted. "Has the wound healed?" "Yes." I nodded. "But it still aches when it rains." His brow furrowed, his expression shifting slightly. "Let's go." I hurried after him. "Go where?" "Aren't we cooking today?" He replied, "We're not cooking today," to avoid someone complaining that I mistreated them again. He walked ahead with his arms crossed. I followed with my head down. Snow began to fall. I don't know where he got an umbrella, but he stopped and waited for me. I didn't dare approach. He frowned, his voice stern. "Come here." I obediently walked over. There were few people on the street. He walked at a leisurely pace, and the soft patter of snow on the umbrella seemed to insulate us from the rest of the world. "I bought you for no particular reason. You don't need to waste your efforts trying to please me." After a long silence, he suddenly spoke. "Other than being my concubine, you can make any other request." I kept my head down, sensing a good opportunity. I was thinking of how to bring up the spring hunt when his voice suddenly tensed with a hint of displeasure. "What are you crying about?" "I'm not crying." I was about to explain when an idea struck me. I managed to squeeze out a single tear and looked at him. He sighed, his brow furrowed. "Fine. Whatever you want." "Really? Anything I want?" I grinned. "General, I'm hungry. Will you treat me to a meal?" He stopped and glanced at me, exasperated. "Give you an inch and you take a mile." I grinned, my eyes crinkling as I followed him. "I want to eat the fish head I bought today, but we left, so Master Lin won't have anything for lunch." "You talk too much," he said, tilting the umbrella slightly more toward me. "I'll have someone prepare a meal for him." I gave him a thumbs up. The General is so thoughtful. I suppressed a smile. "You're good at flattery." As the spring hunt drew closer, I stopped visiting Master Lin and instead waited for Marcus in his study every day. I knocked several times before a response came from within. Pushing the door open, I saw Marcus looking at me, his gaze then falling on the food container in my hands. I smiled brightly and walked over. It's the soup the general likes most. Drink it while it's hot. Marcus rested his chin on his hand, watching me. I held out the bowl. Shall I feed you, General? To my surprise, Marcus actually glanced at me before taking the bowl and drinking it himself. I sat opposite him, watching. Even the way he drank soup was elegant, his every move exuding a noble air. Have you seen enough? Marcus asked. Not yet. I shook my head, then immediately regretted it, my face flushing as I looked at him. He lowered his head to sip his tea and said faintly, I am not a good person. You don't need to waste your efforts on me. I nodded. In that case, General, could you let me stay in the manor for 2 years? After 2 years, I will leave. Is that acceptable? Marcus looked at me, perplexed. Because in 2 years, the 2 major events that affect the General's destiny will have passed. I can then withdraw safely. I promise that after 2 years, I will leave without any entanglement with you. His brow furrowed, his voice laced with a hint of annoyance. As you wish. With his assurance, I was relieved. He wouldn't kick me out before I accomplished my goal. Thank you, General. I'll be leaving now. That way, I wouldn't have to bring him soup every day. I could just remind him when the time came. But then he started appearing in my courtyard. I would greet him and ask, is the General looking for me for something? He would glance at me, arms crossed, and say, this is my home. Am I not allowed to take a walk? Oh, of course. Please take your time, General. He gave me a deep look, then turned and left with a flick of his sleeves. My maid said curiously, why does the General seem unhappy? Perhaps he's still waiting to be reinstated. He's frustrated, I sighed. Just a few more days. The next day, I encountered Marcus on my walk. As we met, I curtsied. Marcus cleared his throat twice, deliberately making small talk. In the middle of it, he coughed several more times. The General seems to be ill, my maid said with concern. Well, then I'll make him some soothing soup tomorrow, I sighed. The next afternoon, I brought the soup I had simmered to Marcus. He seemed to be in a very good mood. This soup isn't bad. Make it again tomorrow. I looked at him in surprise and couldn't help but take a sip myself. It wasn't anything special. When I returned to my room, my maid exclaimed in astonishment, the General has never drunk soup brought by anyone else. Impossible. Didn't Ruby and the others ever bring him any? My maid covered her mouth with her hand, a mysterious smile playing on her lips, and pulled me outside the main courtyard to watch the commotion. Sure enough, we saw Ruby arrive with a food container, but she wasn't even allowed through the courtyard gate before being sent away. Perhaps the General is busy today and doesn't wish to be disturbed, I whispered. Ruby was furious after being turned away. She gathered her clique and came to my quarters to cause trouble. They cooed, sister, dear sister, with false sincerity while trying to drug my tea. I of course did not drink it and sent them all away, but I still fell into their trap. The next day, my face broke out in red spots. My maid found out they had sprinkled some unknown powder on my pillow, intending to ruin my face. Furious, I grabbed the pillow and marched to their quarters, shoving their faces into it. You ungrateful wretches. You want to ruin my face? Then let's all be ruined together. No one escapes. The courtyard filled with their wretched cries. Just like last time, they ran out with disheveled hair, weeping and wanting to seek justice from the General. After the fight, I felt much better, but Marcus was once again disturbed. It was a scene revisited. I didn't dare approach him, thinking if he wanted to beat me or throw me out, I wouldn't be afraid. At least I had vented my anger. Marcus said coldly, deal with this according to the rules. 60 strokes for each, and then expel them from the manor. He turned and left with a flick of his sleeves. The guards stepped forward to escort Ruby and the others away, leaving me standing alone. I was utterly stunned. It wasn't just me. Ruby and the others were shocked too. General, why aren't you punishing Isabella? General, you're being biased. General, we know we were wrong. Marcus didn't look back, leaving them to their wails. My maid said excitedly, the General treats you differently from the others, my lady. That afternoon, a physician came to examine my face, leaving behind an ointment and instructions for its use. Ruby and the others were truly expelled. After they left, my life became much more comfortable. There was no more bickering. The food was better, and I was given more fine fabrics for clothing. My maid giggled. "My lady, you may not go out, but you don't know the rumors flying around outside. They all say the general is bewitched by you, that he dismissed his entire courtyard of women for your sake, favoring only you." Favoring only me? If my skin weren't so thick, he would have thrown me out days ago. That evening, Marcus returned and handed me an invitation. "Madame Wang is hosting a flower viewing party. Your sister will also be there. Is it appropriate for me to go?" Although I was no longer a servant, I was still the daughter of a convicted official and shouldn't be showing my face in high society. To my surprise, Marcus decided to accompany me to Madame Wang's party. The moment we arrived, everyone's curious eyes were on me. Marcus leaned in and asked quietly, "Are you afraid?" The madams and young ladies at this party were all people I met when I used to go out with my mother. It's just that times have changed and my status has become awkward. "What is there for me to be afraid of?" I said with a bright smile. He let out a faint chuckle. "It should be them who are afraid of me." I couldn't help but laugh. He was right. With his notorious reputation, Marcus was feared by everyone. In that case, the general and I are quite the pair of social pariahs. Marcus stifled a laugh and turned to leave. I saw him off, and as I turned back, I met Vivien's icy gaze. When she saw me looking, she put on a smiling face and approached me. "I never expected Marcus would not only dismiss his entire harem for you but also bring you to a flower viewing party. It seems my worries were for nothing." I smiled. "What worries did you have for me, sister?" Her face hardened, but she forced another smile. "Just don't get too complacent and forget yourself. Marcus is moody and unpredictable. He treats you well now, but who knows if he'll turn on you tomorrow and have you beaten or killed." "Oh, thank you for the reminder, sister." I tilted my head to look at her. "But how do you know the general is so unpredictable? I don't recall you being acquainted with him before." Vivien's expression froze and she gave a strained laugh. "The rumors are widespread in the capital. Who doesn't know?" "The rumors are wrong," I said with a smile. "The general is very gentle." The smile on Vivien's face finally crumbled. "So what if he's gentle? You're still just a mere concubine. If you have the ability, make him marry you. What's there to be proud of?" She flicked her sleeve and stormed off. Seeing her angry retreat, my mood lifted, and I went to greet the other ladies. They wanted to avoid me but were too concerned with appearances, so their attitudes were lukewarm. I didn't mind and focused on talking with Madame Yang. Madame Yang was the wife of Commander Yang, the head of the Imperial Guard. Due to his special position, Madame Yang rarely socialized. Furthermore, both she and her husband came from humble backgrounds, so their lack of social interaction was also a form of being ostracized. Today, I had a clear objective. The upcoming spring hunt security was entirely arranged by Commander Yang. In my past life, after the incident, the only people at the scene were the Emperor, the third prince, and Commander Yang. And Commander Yang didn't say a single word to help the third prince, which is what led the prince in his panic to throw Marcus under the bus. This time, I deliberately worked to build a good relationship with Madame Yang, using my memories and understanding of her from my past life. I flattered her skillfully. Within half an hour, she had disregarded our difference in status and was affectionately calling me her little sister. On the way back, I took the initiative to tell Marcus what had happened at the party. Madame Yang mentioned that the spring hunt will be on the 22nd of the first lunar month. Her husband has been very busy lately. Marcus replied faintly, "This year includes the spring examinations, so the Emperor has approved it half a month earlier." The Emperor had not summoned him to attend, and Marcus had no intention of going. After all, even though he was demoted, if he truly wanted to go, there were ways. "Will the general be going?" I asked, feigning great anticipation. "I heard there are pheasants in the Imperial Orchid Mountains. I would love to see one." Marcus looked at me with some surprise because my words were both sudden and overstepped my bounds, something I normally would not say, which made him find it strange. I pretended to be innocently unaware, looking at him with hopeful eyes. In that case, I will have someone bring a pheasant back for you, Marcus said. It seems he still didn't want to go. Now my only hope was Madame Yang. Fortunately, she did not disappoint. A few days later, a mobilization order was delivered to the general's manor. Commander Yang requested Marcus's assistance in protecting the spring hunt. When the order arrived, I was in Marcus's study. He held the letter, looking at me silently. You've been associating with Madame Yang because you want me to go to the spring hunt. I nodded. I want the general to personally shoot a pheasant for me. Marcus stared at me intently for a long time without speaking. I breathed a sigh of relief. With Marcus there, the events of the past life would surely not happen again. In a flash, it was the day of the spring hunt. Marcus left for the hunting grounds a day early. He didn't say goodbye, but I didn't mind, simply waiting at the manor for news. I clearly remembered from my past life that the incident occurred on the second day of the hunt. After it happened, the emperor immediately set out to return to the capital. After 3 days of anxious waiting with no news, I finally relaxed. After waiting like this for half a month, Marcus finally returned, a pheasant in his hand. I lifted my skirts and ran toward him. General, you're back. He stopped, a faint smile on his lips, and slightly opened his arms. I rushed forward, pointing at the bird in his hand. General, you're truly amazing. You really shot a pheasant. He lowered his arms, his smile fading. You like this pheasant that much? I love it. It's so beautiful. I called for Victor. Hurry, we're having chicken tonight. Marcus had a strange expression as he looked at me. I was so overjoyed that I paid no attention to his face. I had changed the course of events. If all went well, Marcus should be reinstated soon. Once his matters were settled, I could make my exit. Sure enough, 3 days later, Marcus was restored to his former position. The emperor treated him as he had before. The first day he returned from his duties, I personally cooked several dishes and waited for him. He looked at me. You seem happier than I am. Of course. My general's reinstatement is a cause for celebration for the entire world, I said, beaming at him. Marcus took a sip of wine, his face slightly flushed. At the end of the second month, Marcus became busy with preparations for the spring examinations. In the middle of the third month, the exams began, and the entire capital seemed to fall quiet. My lady, today I saw your sister booking a celebratory banquet at the Spring Willows Tavern for the end of the month, my maid said. It seems she's very confident that Mr. Wu will achieve a high rank. I sipped my tea, laughing inwardly. Daniel, with his empty head, couldn't even pass as a regular scholar, let alone a distinguished scholar. As for why he was a distinguished scholar in our past life, it was because after I became a disciple of Master Lin predicted dozens of exam questions. I wrote the essays, he corrected them, and in the end, I had to memorize everything. As luck would have it, Master Lin's predictions were spot on, and Daniel became the distinguished scholar. In this life, without me and Master Lin, he couldn't possibly succeed. Only Vivien still truly believed Daniel was a man of great talent and beauty, and that my marriage to him in the past was a stroke of luck for me. At the end of the month, the results were announced. As I expected, Daniel failed miserably. He didn't care much, knowing his own limitations. But Vivien couldn't accept it. She had already prepared to be the wife of a distinguished scholar, a future prime minister's wife, and now her beautiful dream was shattered. Refusing to accept reality, she beat the grievance drum, accusing the spring examinations of fraud. The matter caused a huge uproar. The court launched a thorough investigation but of course found no issues. Vivien and Daniel were both imprisoned in the Court of Judicial Review. A day later, Vivien sent a letter through a messenger, asking to see me. It was my first time in the prison. Vivien sat on the ground, her hair a mess with a visible wound on her face. Daniel squatted in a corner, his face and arms covered in scratch marks. It seemed I had missed a marital spat. Isabella. Seeing me, Vivien lunged forward in a rage. If not for the bars separating us, I think she would have tried to kill me on the spot. I'm asking you, why aren't you the same as me? I frowned. What do you mean, not the same? Don't play dumb with me. At the flower viewing party, When you got close to Madame Yang, I already realized you, like me, were reborn. Vivien tried to reach through the bars to hit me. Why didn't Daniel pass? He was clearly the distinguished scholar in our last life. It must have been you. You tampered with it. Looking at her, I was suddenly reminded of when I was 5. We were playing in our grandmother's room and she broke grandmother's favorite vase. Fearing punishment, she blamed it on me. As grandmother struck my palm, she also slapped me, calling me naughty and a disgrace to the family. She has always been like this, never changing. Good things were hers to claim. Disasters were immediately blamed on others. I sneered. Listen to yourself. Do you think the spring examinations are something I can manipulate? Then why? Why? She screamed. You want to know why? Then I'll tell you. I lowered my voice. I was born with a fate of fortune and nobility. No matter who I marry, he will soar to great heights and achieve high office. So in our past life, Daniel succeeded because he married me. I helped him pass the exams. I assisted his rise through the ranks. He was lucky to have met me, not the other way around. This life, you married him, so naturally, he no longer has that fortune. Vivien stared at me with venomous eyes. Suddenly, Daniel rushed from the corner, grabbing the bars and staring at me intently. Have we met before? Why do you seem so familiar? I gave Daniel a deep look, then turned and walked away. Vivien and Daniel called after me from behind, their voices eventually turning into a squabble as they blamed each other. A few days later, the verdict for Vivien and Daniel was decided. A benefactor had secured their release. Vivien was sentenced to 30 strokes of the cane, and Daniel was banned from taking the Imperial exams for life. After being banned, Daniel dropped all pretense. He spent his days drinking and carousing with his friends. When he came home and saw Vivien, he would fly into a rage, taking out his frustrations on her with his fists and feet, regardless of her severe injuries. That night, I had a dream. In it, I was back at the Chen Manor. Father returned from his duties, and we 3 siblings gathered around him, chattering away while Mother sat nearby, watching us with a smile. When I opened my eyes, my face was wet with tears. Marcus was very busy. I hadn't seen him in days. Today, my maid came back with news. Daniel has been arrested again. Arrested again? I was stunned. For what? He got drunk and caused trouble at the Golden Spring Pavilion, accidentally killing a courtesan, she replied. I sighed. At this time in our past life, Daniel was a celebrated scholar, admired by all. In this life, he had completely sunk into the mire, likely with no chance of ever recovering. Another 2 days passed and Marcus suddenly returned early from his duties. He immediately summoned me to his study. When I pushed the door open, I saw Vivien was there too. It turned out that the person who had bailed them out was Marcus. The moment Vivien saw me, tears streamed down her face, a picture of misery. Isabella, your brother-in-law, and I have nowhere else to go. I could only come to you and the general. With that, she fell to her knees before me, sobbing like she was caught in a storm. In this world, you are the only family I have left. Her dramatic weeping was, of course, not a genuine plea to me, but a performance for Marcus. Having spent 6 years in his manor in her past life, she must have known that he was susceptible to a soft approach over a hard one. Perhaps she even knew he had a weakness for women's tears. I knew this because I had used that trick on him many times, and it always worked. I figured that with a beauty like Vivien crying, it would be even more effective. Sure enough, Marcus's brow furrowed in distress. He looked at me. Isabella, whether she stays or goes is your decision. You're pretending to ask me? If you didn't want her to stay, why did you bring her back? This is the general's home. Naturally, the general should decide, I said solemnly. Out of Marcus's line of sight, Vivien shot me a triumphant smirk and whispered, I bet he'll let me stay. After all, little sister, he was once my husband too. He saw me at the gate today and brought me in himself. I frowned, flicked my sleeves, and turned to leave. Isabella, Marcus called after me. I stopped. I don't want her to stay. If the general wants to keep her, then keep her. The moment I finished speaking, I heard Marcus say, Victor, show our guest out. I froze and turned back, staring at Marcus in disbelief. He was really just asking for my opinion. Vivien was clearly just as stunned, letting out a cry. "General." But Marcus paid her no mind. "It was you." Vivien glared at me, her eyes filled with rage. "You've been jealous of me since we were children, never wanting to see me happy. You're still the same, you wretched creature." She lunged forward, raising her hand to strike me. Before I could even push her away, she flew backward as if she were a broken kite. Marcus looked at Vivien coldly and shouted, "Guards, throw her out." "No, General. You can't treat me like this. In our last life, you and I were husband and wife. She was the one who married Daniel. She never liked you at all, General." Vivien shrieked. Marcus watched as she was dragged away, his brow slightly furrowed. He then said, "She married Daniel?" I shook my head. "Impossible. She's gone mad. She's spouting nonsense." Marcus still looked displeased. I quickly ran off, but feeling Marcus's cold indifference directed at someone else for a change felt surprisingly good. Having averted the first crisis, I began to think about Marcus's second one, which was also the greatest obstacle he had to overcome, his sister and his nephew. In his last life, it was because of Imperial Consort Zhong and the third prince that he remained frustrated and ultimately was dragged into their rebellion, meeting a tragic end. Getting Marcus to abandon his sister and nephew would be incredibly difficult. He had lost his mother at a young age and was raised by his sister. He owed her a debt as vast as the sky. But whether it was the third prince or Imperial Consort Zhong, neither was a righteous person. For this matter, I was waiting for a particular person to appear. Before that, I had to prepare for the future. So I went to find Master Lin. He was my father's strategist. In my past life, I sought him out and begged him to take me as his disciple. This time, I didn't ask to be his disciple, nor did I interact with him as the second Miss Chen. But now, I don't want to hide it anymore. When Master Lin saw me remove my cap, he smiled. The moment you arrived, I recognized the second Miss Chen. What man in this world could be so handsome? I was utterly embarrassed, recalling what Marcus had said that day. My male disguise was nothing but self-deception. Master Lin laughed heartily. "Master," I said with a smile, "I want to start a business." Master Lin was surprised and delighted, eagerly asking what kind of business I had in mind. "Silken tea," I said quietly. "I also want to get into maritime trade. I've already looked at a few ships, but I don't have anyone I can use at the moment, and it's inconvenient for me to show my face." Master Lin immediately agreed, saying he would be willing to act on my behalf. I remembered clearly from my past life that the Emperor would open up maritime trade in the middle of the year. Not long after, he would close it again due to rampant piracy along the coast. But that 1 year was enough. In my previous life, the merchants who seized that opportunity all made a fortune, and both I and especially Marcus would need money later. "But do you have the funds? Are you borrowing from the General?" "Yes," I grinned. Master Lin pointed at me. "Second Miss, you grow bolder by the day, to dare borrow money from the General." That evening, I prepared several desserts and waited for Marcus, but he didn't return until midnight. I dozed off in the living room. Sometime in the night, someone gently tapped my shoulder. "Why aren't you sleeping in your room?" "General, you're back." I pushed all the desserts on the table toward him. "You must be hungry. Eat something before you sleep." Marcus was forced to hold 4 boxes of desserts. "You waited up until midnight just to give me these?" He sat down, his expression one that had already seen through me, waiting for me to continue. I poured him some tea and placed a pastry in his hand. "General, could you lend me some money?" Marcus chuckled. "I knew you weren't being so kind for no reason." "I was. I haven't seen you in days." "I was so happy to see you tonight," I said, fawning over him. He asked, "How much do you want?" I held up one finger. 10,000 taels. For 1 year. Next year, I will repay you 100,000 taels. Marcus glanced at me. "Who are you doing business with?" "I'll have someone look into it." Fearing he wouldn't agree, I went behind him and boldly started massaging his shoulders. "With Master Lin. We're going into maritime trade. I've already picked out the ships, just waiting to pay." I leaned in to look at him. General, everything is ready. All we need is for you to provide the support. Marcus looked at me, his eyes sparkling, and his ears quickly turned red. He stood up, avoiding me, and said as he walked away, Victor, give the second Miss Chen 10,000 taels. My eyes lit up. So the general is lending it to me? He took a step back as if afraid I would pounce on him like a wolf. Yes, I'll lend it. If it's not enough, find Victor. He seemed a bit flustered. I couldn't help but laugh. Thank you, General. You are the kindest person in the world. I will definitely repay your kindness. Marcus quickly disappeared into the courtyard. Victor, smiling, handed me the banknotes for 10,000 taels and whispered, only you can speak to the general like this without making him angry. I smiled. Marcus was actually quite interesting. Things went very smoothly. Master Lin and I became incredibly busy. Occasionally, I would still dress as a man and accompany Master Lin to negotiations. With everything in place, in the middle of the 6th month, the Emperor indeed issued an edict to open the seaports. We were already prepared, having hired the best sailors and bought ships at the lowest prices. We were the first to set sail. 2 months later, when the ships returned, we had earned 3 times our initial investment. I brought a pile of imported goods to find Marcus. These foreign goods, I saved them especially for the general. You can use them or give them as gifts. I laid them out on his desk one by one. He looked at me. Why are you so dark? Did you steer the ship yourself? I touched my face and found a mirror to check. Indeed, I was much darker. It's fine. I look beautiful even when I'm tan, don't I? Marcus fiddled with a snuff box I brought him and gave a soft chuckle. I moved closer and smiled. General, are you free tonight? I'd like to treat you to dinner. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Made some money and now you're getting arrogant. Do I need to be arrogant to treat the general to a meal? Whenever you want to eat, I'll treat you. Marcus's lips curved into a smile. I booked several tables at a restaurant. The moment Marcus arrived, Master Lin and our business partners all stood up. As I was introducing him, one of the cooks, an older auntie, whispered to me, Boss, isn't that handsome general your husband? I quickly covered her mouth. Don't talk nonsense. The general is not my husband. The auntie was unconvinced. He's such a handsome man. Boss, you don't like him? It's not that I don't like him. He doesn't like me, I shushed her. Let's just eat. Don't talk about it. The auntie gave me a sympathetic look. Well then, boss, you should use some of your womanly wiles and seduce him. Finally getting the auntie to drop the subject, I took a sip of tea to compose myself. When I turned my head, I saw that Marcus had at some point sat down beside me. He was sitting upright, sipping his tea, his face expressionless, but the tips of his ears were bright red. When did you get here, General? My mouth twitched. He glanced at me, suppressing a smile. A while ago. I covered my face, wishing I could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. Behind me, someone chuckled. The next day, I quietly packed my things and left. I needed to hide for a while. It was just too embarrassing. I didn't return until after the new year, managing to sell off all the ships before the seaports closed again. Master Lin and I returned to the capital. Before going back to the general's manor, I went to withdraw the money to find Marcus. General, I've come to repay the loan. He looked up from a pile of documents. I smiled and placed a wooden box of banknotes in front of him. The 10,000 taels you lent me, plus the interest I owe you. It's all in here. He flipped through it. 10,000 taels turned into 100,000. Don't be so formal, General. There will be many more expenses in the future. I sat down in front of him. My business will rely heavily on you. Consider this money as a capital investment, your share of the profits. If he were to support the third prince's bid for the throne later, 100,000 taels would be far from enough. In that case, you'll have to make good use of my influence, or you'll be at a loss, Marcus said with a smile. He rarely smiled, and I just realized how handsome he looked when he did. I was momentarily stunned. Marcus cleared his throat, his gaze falling on my clothes. I looked down and saw 2 holes torn in my sleeve. I was mortified. He raised an eyebrow. The palace has bestowed a lot of fine fabrics for women. They are for you. I was very surprised. Is the general getting married? Why would the palace suddenly bestow women's fabrics upon you? Marcus's face darkened and he ignored me. When I returned to my room, I was stunned. I had expected just a few bolts of fabric, but there was a whole table piled high with them. At least 20 or 30 pieces. My maid giggled. The general brought these back while you were away. Sometimes 1 bolt, sometimes 2. The general brought them back himself. My maid nodded. I later learned that these fabrics were not bestowed by the palace at all. He had actively taken them from the Department of Household Affairs. Whenever new fashionable fabrics arrived from the south, he would take some. Now the officials in the department avoided him on sight. Even the concubines in the inner palace had started talking about Marcus because he always chose the best for himself. With maritime trade closed, Master Lin and I prepared to start a silk and tea business. We were constantly looking at shops. Before the Dragon Boat Festival, we went out of the city again. By the time we returned, the festival had already passed. Miss Chen, you're back. Victor greeted me with a smile. We thought you would be back for the Dragon Boat Festival. The general waited for you to have dinner until midnight. I froze, wiping the sweat from my brow. He waited for me. Yes, that's right, Victor replied. It was my oversight. Is the general at home? Yes, he is. I went back to my room, changed my clothes, and immediately took a gift to find Marcus. I pushed open the study door and said with a smile, General, I brought you. My words trailed off because I realized the person in the study was not him, but Nathan. My heart pounded. The person I had been waiting for had finally appeared. Nathan was Marcus's childhood friend and also the lover of Imperial Consort Zhong before she entered the palace. After she was chosen for the palace, their story ended. Nathan then traveled the world alone, writing many travelogues and gaining a great reputation among the common people. After being away for many years, he suddenly returned to the capital. Upon his return, he frequently met with Marcus and later became acquainted with the third prince. It was because of him that the third prince launched his rebellion. Later, after the rebellion failed, Nathan was still muttering Imperial Consort Zhong's name before his death, saying things like they could not be together in life and other such nonsense. At that time, I found it incredibly ironic. The third prince's rebellion, Marcus's entanglement, and the deaths of so many innocent people, all because the instigator's motive was love. Just wanting to see the woman he loved one more time while he was alive. Nathan was also startled to see me. You must be the second Miss Chen. I nodded. Nathan should be 22 this year, the same age as Marcus, and 2 years younger than Imperial Consort Zhong. Due to his frequent travels, his skin was slightly tanned, but his handsome features and elegant demeanor were undiminished. No wonder people in the past teased that Nathan was a lovesick beauty. Please have a seat. Nathan was very enthusiastic. I've heard that the second Miss Chen is a brilliant businesswoman with a Midas touch that can turn stone into gold. I have always been curious what kind of woman could possess such ability. Meeting you today has truly opened my eyes. I smiled. Mr. Shin, you flatter me. Nathan was surprised. You know me? I nodded. Mr. Shin's great name is well known. I have also read your travelogues. Nathan became even more enthusiastic, even standing up to sit beside me and eagerly discuss business matters. An idea sparked in my mind. I smiled and said, Sir, you have traveled far and wide and have vast knowledge. You would have an even greater advantage in business. Nathan's eyes lit up. I do have this idea. Having traveled so much over the years, I've gained a lot of knowledge. I always feel that one must do something in life to leave a legacy for future generations. Otherwise, to come and go like a passing cloud, leaving no trace, would be a great pity. I think so too. Even with money in hand, if the nation faces a crisis in the future, contributing even a small part would not be a wasted life. He acted as if he had found a kindred spirit, his eyes filled with admiration. In truth, with Marcus back in the court and the third prince receiving better guidance from him than in the past life, Nathan's influence was much smaller now. But just in case, it was better for me to keep an eye on him. So I found something for him to do. When a person is busy and has a new goal to pursue, love is no longer the only thing in their life. He probably wouldn't incite the third prince to rebel again. As we were talking animatedly, Marcus returned. You two know each other, Marcus? Nathan was delighted. How could you hide such a remarkable person like the second miss? It is truly a regret that she and I have met so late. Marcus looked at me in surprise. Mr. Shen is a witty and knowledgeable man. It would be my fortune to do business with him. I will be the host today. Let's go to the Phoenix Pavilion for dinner. Nathan laughed. Second miss, you must grant me this honor. I naturally agreed. Nathan then thought of something else. Marcus, if you have things to do, go ahead. The second miss and I will have dinner together. We can talk again when you are free. Marcus frowned, looking at me with displeasure. You want to have dinner with him? I nodded. He looked even more unhappy. I stood up to leave, but he called me back. What's that in your hand? Oh, a gift for the general. It's an ornament to be worn at the waist. I handed it to him. He took it with a fluid motion, then glanced at Nathan's empty hands, a triumphant curve to his lips. I quietly apologized to him for the Dragon Boat Festival. I didn't make it back in time. I'm sorry for making the general wait. His face tensed again. Who said I waited for you? I didn't. I have other matters to attend to. I'm leaving first. After saying that, he turned to look at Nathan. I'll have someone arrange lodging for you. You are not to stay here. Nathan muttered, I've always stayed at your place when I came back before. Why not now? Nathan and I talked for the entire afternoon, making plans. That evening, we went to the Phoenix Pavilion for dinner. Just as we sat down, Marcus arrived. I noticed that the ornament I gave him that afternoon was now hanging from his waist, perfectly matching the new set of clothes he had changed into. Nathan was very surprised. Weren't you leaving on official business? You haven't left yet. It was postponed. Marcus stroked the ornament at his waist and sat down beside me, his eyes fixed on the sugar-roasted chestnuts by my hand. I smiled. Mr. Shen bought them for me. Would you like some, General? His brow furrowed. You like chestnuts? I nodded. Without a word, he took the paper bag and began leisurely shelling and eating them. In a flash, the entire bag was gone. I was stunned. He then said nonchalantly, They're all gone. I'll buy you another bag later. Oh. I could only nod. The great Marcus, fighting with me over chestnuts. No one would believe it if I told them. Since when did you like eating chestnuts? Nathan asked, puzzled. When we were kids, I tried to get you to eat them, but you refused, saying it was too much trouble. Marcus glanced at him. People change. Nathan looked at him strangely. After dinner, Marcus took me to buy 10 bags of chestnuts. After that day, Marcus, who was usually very busy, suddenly seemed to have a lot of free time. Whenever Nathan came to his house, he would definitely be back. I didn't have the mind to pay him any attention, still busy with business in the capital. We hadn't opened any shops in the capital before, but now we opened 2 in a row, a pharmacy and a tea shop. The connections were sourced by Nathan. I didn't have such contacts. As for the tea, the storefront was just a formality. We mainly supplied it to the noble families. I was so busy I barely had time to breathe. Nathan was incredibly capable, especially at dealing with people. His silver tongue could turn a molehill into a mountain. I greatly admired him. Just tea is not enough, I said. You mean we have to add silk? Nathan asked. Have you smoothed things over with the noble families? I asked. What's so difficult about that? Nathan laughed. If the second miss wants to become an imperial merchant, I can make it happen. Sir, your talent is immense, I said, cupping my hands in a salute. Master Lin was also full of admiration. Everyone praised Mr. Shen, but I didn't believe it. Now I see I was blind. Nathan, Master Lin, and I discussed making a trip to the south in the middle of the year to negotiate with the silk suppliers. When I returned to the general's manor, I told Marcus about the trip. His brow furrowed tightly. Can't he and Master Lin go to the south? Why must you go? I was busy with my ledgers and paused to look at him. I'm also going to ask Nathan about his business skills. He's much better at it than I am. Marcus sat opposite me, holding a book, his face cold and unreadable, not saying a word for a long time. Before I left for the south, a major event occurred. Imperial Consort Zhong was released from the Cold Palace. I observed Nathan's reaction. He seemed normal, but Imperial Consort Zhong was not one to stay quiet. The moment she was out, she started stirring up trouble. Sometimes I thought it was understandable. Growing up, she and her brother had only each other to rely on. If she weren't a bit ruthless, they probably wouldn't have survived. She summoned me to the palace. I looked at Victor, feeling puzzled. Does Her Highness have any instructions? Victor hesitated. It's likely about the general's marriage. Marcus was away on official business, not in the capital. I had reason to suspect that Imperial Consort Zhong was taking this opportunity to summon me. I couldn't refuse. I tidied myself up and prepared to enter the palace. Before I left, Nathan suddenly came to see me, stammering and unable to get his words out before finally leaving with a flick of his sleeves. This was the second time I had met Imperial Consort Zhong. The first time was in my past life. After Daniel was promoted to Prime Minister, I met her at a banquet hosted by the Empress. That banquet left a deep impression on me because she had thrown wine in another consort's face and was reprimanded by the Emperor. At that time, I was very surprised. Imperial Consort Zhong had been in the harem for over a decade, had been sent to the Cold Palace twice. So why was she so easily provoked? My impression of her then was based solely on her personality. I didn't pay much attention to her appearance. But seeing her again today, I was struck by her beauty. It was no wonder that despite her humble origins and lack of literacy, she had once been the most favored consort in the harem. This face, even I was mesmerized looking at it. Indeed, with a brother as handsome as Marcus, how could the sister be any less? Imperial Consort Zhong was very direct, speaking quickly. I want to find a suitable wife for Marcus, one from a family of equal standing. Your presence in his house without any official title is no longer appropriate. Therefore, I am giving you 3 days to move out of the General's manor before Marcus is married. You are not to have any contact with him to avoid complicating his marriage. If you agree, I will still respect you. If you don't, I have plenty of ways to deal with you. She slammed her teacup down, her eyes sharp as she stared at me. If you like him and can't let go, I'm not without a solution for you. Wait 3-5 years. After he has an heir and the child is a bit older, I will personally arrange for you to be elevated to one of his concubines. How about that? Say something. You're as quiet as a gourd. Imperial Consort Zhong frowned. What could I say? I could only agree. I would not dare to defy your highness's wishes. However, regarding leaving the general's manor, it is only proper that I wait for the general's return to inform him myself. I stood up and replied. She waved her hand dismissively. Just go. He won't miss you. I know my brother best. He's been cold since he was a child, with no deep feelings for anyone. Don't harbor any foolish hopes. Your statuses are too far apart. He will never fall for you. I still agreed. After saying her piece, Imperial Consort Zhong had me escorted out. When I returned to the manor, Nathan was surprisingly still there, anxiously asking what Imperial Consort Zhong and I had talked about. I relayed her words to him. He managed a smile that was uglier than a cry. She hasn't changed, still so direct. I paused, looking at him. He scratched his head a bit awkwardly. I've liked her since we were children. I always thought she was so beautiful and capable. When I got a little older, I dreamed of marrying her. Nathan sighed. But fate plays tricks on people. Someone trying to curry favor with the emperor offered her 5,000 taels to enter the palace. Without a second thought, she gave the 5,000 taels to Marcus and left with them that very day. For all these years, I've wanted to say a proper goodbye. In my dreams, I'm always chasing after her, calling her name, asking her why she left without a word, and if she ever thought of me all these years. His youthful affection had become his obsession. I also sighed softly. I think for her, love was less important than a steamed bun to fill her stomach. You never had to worry about food or clothing, while she had to worry about feeding 2 people from a young age. She simply had no time to indulge in feelings. Nathan looked up at the sky. After a long while, he wiped away a tear from the corner of his eye and said sadly, "You're right. I've been too fixated all these years. What's the point of seeing her again? Not to mention whether she remembers me. Even if she did, so what? She has many people to care about in her life, but I am surely not one of them." I handed him a handkerchief. He waved it away. "Talking to you has made me feel much lighter. But this is our secret. You can't tell anyone, not even Marcus." I made a shushing gesture. "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone." Nathan smiled and ruffled my hair. "You're so smart and clever. If Marcus doesn't like you, there's something wrong with his eyes." I think so too. Both of them, brother and sister, have problems with their eyes. We laughed together. As we were laughing, Marcus returned. He stood at the door, looking at us with a displeased expression. "Weren't you going to the south? Why haven't you left yet?" Marcus pushed Nathan aside, standing between us. "I have to wait for Isabella to go with me," Nathan said. "Otherwise, if I go, Isabella will be lonely by herself. She has no family and no one to ask after her." Marcus's expression grew even darker. "She is in my house. I will naturally take care of her." Nathan retorted, "You take care of her? Do you even know how to care for people? You've been clueless since you were a child." Marcus opened his mouth to say something, but though his lips moved several times, he couldn't find a rebuttal because what Nathan said was the truth. "You can go now," Marcus said, dismissing him. I saw the tense atmosphere and decided to make my escape. "I'll go cook." "I'll help you." Nathan also made a quick exit. I prepared 4 dishes. When the food was on the table, Marcus's expression was even fouler. "Why is everything so spicy?" Marcus had been injured, and the doctor had forbidden him from eating spicy food. But Nathan loved spicy food. "These are all my favorites," Nathan said happily, digging in. Marcus didn't touch his chopsticks. I said cautiously, "Shall I go cook a bowl of noodles for the general?" The corner of his mouth lifted. "Fine." I had no choice but to go make noodles for him. While I was busy, he appeared at the kitchen door. "Imperial Consort Zhong summoned you to the palace today." "Yes, I was just about to tell you." I relayed her words to him. His brow furrowed tightly. "So you're planning to move out?" "Yes. My 2-year agreement with the general is almost up. It's a good time to move out. After this busy period, I plan to go to the northwest to find my parents. I still haven't thanked you." I lowered my voice. "I know everything you've done to take care of my parents." He remained silent. Since being reborn, I had never asked about my parents or my brother because I knew that with Marcus's care, their lives were not in danger. They weren't even suffering. In my past life, after my family's downfall, I was burning with anxiety and rushed to find Master Lin, my father's strategist, hoping he could save my family. Master Lin said he had tried, but his abilities were limited. So I desperately assisted Daniel, hoping he would rise through the ranks quickly and use his position to save my family. It wasn't until the 2nd year, after much effort, that I managed to get news of my father, brother, and mother, only to find out that not only were they not suffering, they were living quite well. I never knew who was secretly helping them until Marcus's downfall. It was from Master Lin that I learned the person helping us was Marcus. He not only helped my parents but even arranged to buy me and Vivien from the pleasure house and helped Daniel in his official career. He did all this with no ulterior motive. It wasn't until after his death that I learned the truth from my father. In other words, in my past life, if it weren't for Marcus, my entire family would not have survived, let alone been reunited. So in this life, I had to repay his kindness, to return his warmth with the same compassion. A kind, warm person should not be treated so coldly by the world. Now that the 2 events that changed his destiny had been altered, I had no reason to stay by his side any longer. "Isabella," Nathan placed food in my bowl and poured me wine. "When we get to the south, I'll take you to eat delicious food and see beautiful sights." He chatted on and on about the south. For some reason, he was especially excited tonight, and he kept calling me Isabella, making my skin crawl. As I listened, I glanced at Marcus. His face was ashen. He suddenly tapped the table. "Nathan, come outside with me for a moment." Nathan's chatter stopped abruptly. "Can't it wait? I still have something to say to Isabella." Marcus stood at the door, unmoving. Nathan didn't dare disobey and followed him out with his head down. A moment later, Marcus returned alone. "Where is he?" I asked. "He had an urgent matter and had to leave for a few days," Marcus said, his face impassive. "Do you like him very much?" I was taken aback and shook my head. "No, we're just compatible friends." "Why would you ask that, General?" Marcus's expression relaxed. "No reason. Just asking." I lowered my head and ate. A moment later, he spoke again. "I told Imperial Consort Zhong that who I marry is none of her business. In the future, even if she summons you to the palace, you don't have to pay her any mind." "Oh." I was startled and looked up at him. "Who does the general want to marry?" He looked at me and suddenly tapped my head. "Eat your food." A few days later, I said goodbye to Marcus and left for the south with Master Lin. Just as I left the capital, I saw Nathan squatting by the side of the road. "Weren't you away on business? Why are you squatting here?" Nathan looked at me resentfully. "Marcus got jealous and kicked me out." I was stunned. He was jealous. Nathan poked my forehead. "You too. One of you thinks one thing and says another, and the other is just clueless." My heart pounded. "Marcus, he likes me. Go. Leave early and come back early. When you return, you can drink at their wedding," Nathan said with a mischievous grin. I turned my head to look back toward the capital, a whirlwind of emotions in my heart. The journey south was smooth. After confirming a few suppliers, we took some time to travel and sightsee. By the time we returned, 2 months had passed. While in the south, I wrote to my parents and sent them some gifts, telling them I would visit at the end of the year. Nathan chartered a boat. It moved slowly, and the scenery along the way was pleasant. We docked along the way to eat. Suddenly, we overheard someone talking about the King of Liang. Last month, the King of Liang and his heir both died. His other 7 sons are now in chaos. The entire region is a mess. Whatever you do, don't go there. I was stunned and leaned in to listen. How could they die so mysteriously? Was there an accident? I heard it was because of a favorite concubine with the surname Chen. That concubine seduced the heir and was discovered by the king. The storyteller sighed. The father and son must have fought, and in the end, they both died. The storyteller's tale was so vivid, it was more captivating than any opera. "Your sister," Nathan whispered to me. I also felt that the favorite concubine in the story was very likely Vivien. When we returned to the capital and disembarked, the weather was nice. We found a restaurant to eat at. As I went out to wash my hands, a figure flashed past me. I didn't get a clear look, but when I returned, someone struck me on the head from behind. Then everything went black. When I was splashed awake with cold water, it was the middle of the night. Looking around by the moonlight, I knew this was my old home, where my family lived before my father's promotion. I was very familiar with this place. Besides, in my past life, Vivien and I had perished here together. Vivien stood before me, sneering. "This life doesn't count. We have to start over. Don't we have to start over?" I leaned back in my chair and glanced at her. "If we start over again, who will you choose?" She leaned in, her eyes wild with madness. "Marcus, didn't you just use your memories of the past life to help him, making him see you differently? I can do that too. Marcus will like me too. He will treat me well too." I laughed. "And if that still doesn't work? How many times do you plan to be reborn? Or are you so sure that heaven will grant you a 3rd chance? Do you know where the difference between us lies?" "No." She narrowed her eyes, a murderous glint within them. I said, word by word, "No matter how many times you are reborn, you do it for yourself. Whether you snatch Marcus or Daniel, it's always for yourself. If not for myself, then for whom?" Vivien lit a match. "Go to hell. I want to do it over. I want to do it over. I want to do it over," she repeated incessantly, throwing the lit match into a pile of oil-soaked hay. I closed my eyes. If I were to die today, I had no regrets. I had repaid Marcus's kindness. He would surely continue to take care of my parents and brother for me. The fire roared to life. Vivien suddenly became afraid. She ran outside, screaming. Why do I have to die? If you die, I can take your place. I don't need to die. I don't need to die. She rushed toward the door, then suddenly retreated step by step. General, you've come to save me, haven't you? I knew you must have remembered our past life. You must have feelings for me. Marcus gave her a cold glance, then turned and walked toward me. I looked up at him, momentarily forgetting what I was going to say. He lifted me into his arms and walked out. The roof, consumed by flames, collapsed with a deafening crash. Vivien's screams for help from inside grew fainter. General, I looked at Marcus as if in a dream, unsure if the past life was real or if this moment was. He nodded. Are you hurt? I shook my head, but the next moment, I fainted in his arms. When I woke up, Marcus was sitting by my bed. The candlelight flickered. He leaned back in the chair, fiddling with the ornament I had given him. Seeing I was awake, he said in a hoarse voice, Are you thirsty? Do you want some water? No. I shook my head. He helped me sit up to drink some water, then propped me against the headboard and said softly, The physician has seen you. The injury isn't serious. You'll be fine after a few days of rest. How did you know we were there? I asked him. I guessed, he said casually, then reached out to smooth my hair. The business in the south finished? I nodded. Are you still busy with anything else? Are you planning to go to the northwest to visit your parents? I nodded again. Then I'll go with you. I also want to pay my respects to them, he said in a low voice. I looked at him in surprise, about to speak, when Nathan pushed the door open. Isabella, how are your injuries? It's all my fault. If I hadn't been so careless, this wouldn't have happened. It's not your fault. When she's determined to go mad, she will always find a way. Nathan sat by the bed, looking from me to Marcus. What did Marcus just say? Going to the northwest? A son-in-law paying respects to his in-laws? Don't talk nonsense. I glared at Nathan. He was truly reckless with his words. Marcus said, looking at me softly, I'm not just paying my respects. I want to formally propose marriage to Lord Chen. My face flushed red. Looks like I'll be drinking at a wedding soon. I have to think about what gift to give, Nathan said, a teasing look on his face as he ran out. The room fell silent. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Marcus cleared his throat and asked, How about next month? Next month I'll go and propose. Is that all right with you? I turned away, not looking at him, my heart pounding in my chest. He took my hand. I've been preparing for some time. When you're better, you can take a look and see if you're satisfied. Preparing what? I asked in surprise. For the wedding and gifts to pay respects to your parents, he said softly. I've been preparing for a long time. Since when? His eyes flickered and he held my hand tightly, his ears gradually turning red. After a long moment, he said sullenly, a very long time. He paused, then asked again, Do you want to go see? I burst out laughing. See it? Of course I have to see it. A matter as important as marriage, I must prepare for it carefully. Marcus. I never had parents. Since I can remember, only my sister was by my side to keep me alive. She endured great hardships, which inevitably made her more direct and hot-tempered than other women. If she were just an ordinary woman, it would be fine. But she entered the palace and became a consort, and her temperament became her weakness. After she entered the palace, I studied martial arts and literature with all my might, wanting to quickly become someone who could help her. I succeeded, but my sister had already suffered greatly in the harem. Sometimes I thought that being confined to the cold palace was a good thing for her. With her temperament, she might actually live longer there. So when the emperor demoted me, I did nothing to redeem myself. This was good enough. We could both survive. But her affairs ended up implicating Chen Shihao. I went to the pleasure house out of a sense of guilt. Chen Shihao was an upright and honest official. He was just too rigid, fearing neither heaven nor earth, which naturally made him a target of jealousy. During the power struggles in the inner palace, Someone conveniently dragged him in, fabricating a crime. Then countless people trampled on him, and he went from a high-ranking official to a prisoner. I secretly made arrangements for him and settled all the female members of the Chen family who had been sold into servitude. Only the 2 young misses of the Chen family who were in the pleasure house attracted a lot of attention. I could only choose one of them. It didn't matter which one followed me. I would protect her for the rest of her life, until she herself wished to leave. When I arrived, the elder Miss Chen seemed unwilling to be bought by me. She pushed Isabella toward me, so I took her with me. That day, as we left the pleasure house, she followed me from a distance. I thought she would cry, that she would be afraid. But she walked with a calm demeanor, neither fearful nor fawning, as if she had already made plans for her future. This was interesting. She was very stubborn. On her first day in the manor, she got into a fight with the others, 1 against 7. Quite fierce. This reminded me of my sister. She had been like that since she was young, even after entering the palace. If she didn't agree with something, she would resort to her fists. So I punished Isabella to make her remember that violence is not a praiseworthy method. I thought she had learned her lesson and would be more obedient. I never expected her to disguise herself as a man to seek out Master Lin. The first time I saw her, I knew she was Isabella. She even tried to be mysterious, giving me a man's name. However, her cooking skills were not bad, and the food was excellent. I exposed her disguise, and when she looked at me with surprise, I thought of her feigned calm on the first day. The contrast was stark, and I found it amusing. I told her not to waste her efforts on me. I had no desire to marry or to involve anyone else. I couldn't even control my own life and death. How could I marry and have children, only to bring them harm? But she persisted, bringing me soup every day and making a 2-year agreement with me. I didn't care. If she wanted to stay, she could stay. Besides, the soup she made was delicious. But strangely, after that day, she seemed to have achieved her goal and stopped bringing me soup. It wasn't convenient for me to ask her why she stopped, so I walked around her courtyard a few times. She didn't seem to notice. Well, no soup wasn't the end of the world. But that evening, she came again, just like the days before, smiling and flattering me. I was a little annoyed, but seeing her smile, all my anger dissipated. Forget it. Why bother with her? Madame Wang sent an invitation. I used to refuse them all, but this time, for some reason, I really wanted her to go. She was the second miss of the Chen family, from a scholarly and respected line, only fallen into such circumstances because of some people's schemes. So I wanted her to appear before everyone, to tell them all that even as a prisoner's daughter, she was living well. But she didn't seem to care, focusing only on talking with Madame Yang. It was only later that I learned she did it for me. She said she liked pheasants and wanted me to bring one back for her. That day, for some reason, I hunted a lot of prey but couldn't find a single pheasant. In the end, I had to trade 2 deer for a live pheasant from someone else. I triumphantly carried the pheasant back, feeling like a young man, eagerly anticipating the look on her face. When she ran toward me, I thought she wanted to embrace me. I never expected her to only have eyes for the pheasant. She pointed at it, praising it for a while, then turned and told Victor to cook it. After that, every time she said she liked me or praised me, I would think of that pheasant. When I was reinstated, she cooked a feast, looking even happier than I was. She even cheerfully called me her general. Her general. I got drunk that day. The next day, I secretly told Victor to prepare for a wedding. Then Nathan appeared. They got along very well. The smiles on her face were more frequent than when she was with me. I couldn't stand Nathan. She even suggested moving out. I knew my sister had told her to move out, but she was just using it as an excuse. She wanted to leave herself. It was only then that I began to regret speaking so definitively at the beginning, saying I wouldn't fall for her, saying I wouldn't marry. I didn't know how to bring it up. I worried day and night. The words were on the tip of my tongue, but I couldn't say them. After she went to the south, the men I sent to protect her constantly sent back news. She traveled everywhere, having a lot of fun. Although I wanted to see her, knowing she was happy, I felt I shouldn't be selfish. A woman's life is often dull. It was a rare opportunity for her to have such experiences. That day, I calculated the time and knew she had disembarked at the docks, but I waited a long time without any news of her return. It wasn't until later that I learned she had gone missing. I searched many places, turning the entire capital upside down, until someone returned with a lead on her whereabouts, the old Chen family residence. Fortunately, she was unharmed. However, regarding the past life and this life that Vivien kept talking about, that night after the fire, Vivien, on the brink of death, told me the whole story. She said that she and her sister both had memories of a past life and a present one. In the past life, I had taken Vivien, while Isabella had married Daniel. Vivien said that in the past life, I liked her, that I doted on her. I didn't believe it. Even if I knew nothing of my past life, it was impossible for me to like her. But I still felt uneasy. I made a special trip to the prison. Daniel, half dead, was squatting in a corner, but his face was quite handsome. This was the man who had been husband and wife with Isabella in a past life. He was sentenced to beheading. I protected him, and I also arranged for Vivien to live on. As long as I was alive, neither of them would die. To marry Isabella? Daniel was not worthy. This story teaches that a second chance is not a license to seize another's perceived destiny, but an opportunity to rewrite one's own character. While selfishness and jealousy only lead to a repeated cycle of ruin, true fulfillment is forged from gratitude, wisdom, and genuine kindness. Fate is not a prize to be stolen, but a path paved by our own actions and integrity. Ultimately, it is not the circumstances we are given, but the character we build within them that determines whether we earn a truly happy ending. That concludes today's story here at Lotus Tale Studios. We hope you enjoyed it. If this tale of second chances and sweet revenge touched your heart, please give us a like, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our next story. Until next time, may your own story be filled with courage, wisdom, and love.